Well, good morning, everyone. I want to begin by thanking you for being here today on this very important day and this wonderful opportunity for us to do something significant, very significant in the city of Richmond. I want to begin this morning by honoring the veterans who have served our country so wonderfully and so courageously. And I know that bells are ringing all over the city. We may not be able to hear them, but we appreciate the fact that they are ringing. So let's bow our heads for just a moment for a moment of silence as we are grateful for our veterans. Thank you very much. The First World War ended exactly 95 years ago at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It was called the War to End All Wars, and a century later we know that that did not happen. And it just allows us to be able to say today that we have a complicated history in this country, and perhaps no place in America knows about that better than Richmond, Virginia. We live in an old city where something historic happened on almost every corner. Here in Richmond, we know better than most that we consistently and constantly have to ask ourselves, how can we honor the past, build for the future, and live for the present? I want us to be able to answer the question, how do we want Richmond to be known? And you know, we've been having that conversation for a long time, and as I look into the audience, many of you have been involved in that conversation. Together we've talked about what we want to be identified as in the 21st century. We've agreed that we want to develop a downtown identity that renews the passion and pride of our residents, that rekindles the desire of people throughout the region to explore downtown. And we want an identity that will attract people and businesses that will fuel the future of our city. This aspiration has united people across the region and way beyond our city limits. And we see it in small ways, like the RVA stickers on cars, like the RVA stickers on t-shirts, and the big ways like ongoing conversations among people seriously exploring how to maintain our history and unleash our desire to shape an exciting future. Thousands of people across Virginia are loving RVA. And when I drove up today, I thought that this is a wonderful thing because I see a huge crowd of people who love RVA, a huge crowd of people who are excited about the future of Richmond, excited about the present of Richmond, and I believe that you're here today because you want to see us go to the next level. And I believe that you're here today because you love the city of Richmond. You know, I'm used to people speaking back to me when I talk. You're throwing me off with your silence. And so in case you didn't hear me, I think that there are some folks who love RVA. And some people who are excited about the future of our city. Our city is rich with history, and we've got to acknowledge that history, and we've got to honor that history. And we've got to embrace who we are and move forward together, because I believe, as you believe, that our city has a bright, bright future, and we're here today to move on to that future. And so the question today is, how can we live, how can we work, and how can we play together? And that's why we are here today. We've also been having a long conversation about baseball in RVA. The diamond is crumbling. Our neighbors in the counties have said they can't help replace it. We already have lost one team because of it, but I'm here today to say we're not going to lose another team. We have all enjoyed the presence of the squirrels, and we are committed to making sure that they're here for a long, long time. My job as mayor is to move Richmond forward and not to leave anybody behind. And that fact shows that too many people are getting left behind. We know that too many people are getting left behind. This is the most fundamental problem we face in Richmond today. And the answer is that we've got to require new investment, and we have got to expand our tax base. And as I began to weigh our options for development for baseball, we'll let them have their time, and maybe they'll give me my time. All right. All right. We'll give you your time. And as I began to weigh our options for development for baseball, I applied clear economic tests to each site to be considered. Number one, which site creates most jobs and expands our tax base? Which site can pay for itself? And can it be ready for the Squirrels to play in 2016? And I said that if Shockoe met those tests, there would be an additional test. Can we properly honor an area and teach people about a unique chapter in American history that has not yet been fully told? And the answer to the question is that we can do this. And the answer to the question is Shockoe is the right location. By developing Shockoe in an innovative and historically sensitive way, we'll be able to unlock two of the most valuable pieces of land on the East Coast and generate nearly $200 million in new net tax revenue. Now, what you need to hear is that this money can be used for public schools. This money can be used for transportation. This money can be used for public safety. And this money can be used to continue to make Richmond a Tier 1 city. Now here's how we're going to do it. First, the ballpark that I mentioned first, it makes everything else possible, both financially, and I'm thrilled to tell you about their new home. You can see that it looks nothing like the Diamond, and you can see that the ballpark will have 7,200 seats, 6,000 seats that are permanent, and 1,000 seats on berms. The park will be flanked by apartment buildings, a 360-degree concourse, and dramatic architectural inclusions, including a flying roof. And this is going to be similar to other cities such as Durham, Baltimore, and Denver, Colorado, who have experienced great success with projects such as this. I am standing on home plate. And this structure is going to extend to a plaza on Broad Street, and from Broad, fans will enter at street level and walk down to their seats. And from Franklin, patrons will enter from the new 17th Street Plaza, walk up a few steps to the concourse, and then down to their seats. This will be the best ballpark in minor league baseball. It's going to have every possible amenity, and it's going to be a dramatic improvement over these crumbling parking lots where the floodplain has kept this area untouched for decades. Now, I've heard people's concerns about parking, and I want everyone to know that within walking distance to this site, there already are twice as many parking spaces near here as there are near the Diamond. And then we're going to build 1,700 new spots to make it easier. Now, it's important to remember that 15,000 people come to Shockoe for a bacon festival. And it's important to remember that thousands come for craft beer festivals and many of the other festivals that Richmonders love. And that's already twice as many people as the ballpark needs to accommodate. And that's before we build the new parking deck. This is important. The cost of the ballpark will be supported by new developments that will be built simultaneously with the ballpark. The new taxes generated by the new development in Shockoe, plus ballpark revenues and rent payments, will cover virtually all of the costs, thus requiring little support from city taxpayers. That's one reason. That's the reason why this is the right plan for RVA. Our decision to build here was informed by a side-by-side analysis of the two potential ballpark sites, which showed that a ballpark in Shockoe has a far better return on our investment. The Boulevard ballpark scenario would generate an estimated $5 to $6 million in net new revenues. The Shockoe ballpark would generate $10 million in net new revenues each year, covering all ballpark costs. Over the life of the debt, the Shockoe scenario will generate $187 million in net new revenue, or twice as much as the Boulevard option. This plan has no impact on our debt limits. This plan will not affect our upgraded bond ratings, and this plan is essentially self-supporting. Clearly, this is the best plan for taxpayers. Now, this is going to mean changes for the Boulevard. And what I'm looking forward to is that we will come together as a community and determine what this is going to look like. It's going to be an exciting conversation, and we will continue to have public input, and we will continue to seek your ideas about the development of the Boulevard. But perhaps Senator Tim Kaine recently described it best. Listen to what Tim Kaine said. He said, "As a longtime Northsider, I'll miss being able to walk to baseball games at the Diamond. But I have no doubt that my neighbors will work with the city and find great new uses for the Diamond site, uses that will complement the vibrant activity underway in the Boulevard Scotts Addition area. Let's not let this opportunity pass us by." Senator Tim Kaine. So that's the ballpark. Let me tell you about the amenities. The ballpark will be accompanied by private development that will bring important amenities to the neighborhood, including 750 new apartment units, 200 of which will be connected to the ballpark, 500 of which will be immediately across Broad Street. The developers will be David and Brian White, who have developed 2,000 apartments in Shockoe. Nobody knows downtown development better than they do. It will also include a full-size grocery store in a food desert, in a place where a grocery store has been needed for a long, long time. It will also include a Hyatt hotel, and local developer Charles McFarland is the force behind the hotel project for this property. Paul Kreckman and Highwood's property are involved with the grocery store, something we've needed for a long time. And here's what makes this project different from other projects that have come before. All of these economic development projects have been secured with letters of intent. These are not speculations. This is not wishful thinking. This is not a case of build it and they will come. These projects' elements have been secured through intense work by the economic development staff of our city over a long period of time. And these projects are crucial to making the ballpark pay for itself, and they're crucial to revitalizing this entire section of our city. Altogether, plus the ballpark, we will have over $200 million in investment in Shockoe. Who would have ever thought it? It's going to generate 400 permanent new jobs and 1,000 construction jobs in a city that needs them badly. This is good news and ties directly into our efforts to mitigate poverty by providing jobs and expanding our tax base. Now let me say something about the heritage piece of the plan. All of this will make possible an investment that is deeply personal to me. It is important to me, and it is important to people who are opposing the project here today. All of us who support this plan need to listen to the people, perhaps under better circumstances, because they have a right to say what they are saying, and we are going to make sure that the story of this area is fully told. We want everybody to know what happened in Richmond a long time ago. About a 10-minute walk down here from Gray Street, past the train trestles, at the foot of the interstate, lies an area that is called the Devil's Half Acre. The Devil's Half Acre is where thousands of enslaved Africans were held for auction at Lumpkin's jail from the 1830s until the end of the Civil War. Richmond was one of the country's largest slave markets. Only New Orleans sold more human beings than Richmond. It's a story that needs to be told. Future generations need to know what happened here, and we need to commemorate that history so that our sons and daughters will never forget what happened on these grounds. And I need for you to know that even though there are those who don't want to listen, that this is deeply personal to me. In fact, it's so personal that if it were not for what happened those years ago, I would not be here today. I would not be here today if it wasn't for a man named Robert Lumpkin. Robert Lumpkin, one historian said, was both an evil man and a family man. The evil man sold human beings to other people for profit. But as a family man, he loved an African woman named Mary, whom he once enslaved. Robert Lumpkin died and left everything to his wife Mary and their mixed daughters. 2 years later, an itinerant minister traveled through Richmond looking for land to start a seminary to educate free Africans. Mary leased the land, and the Richmond Theological School of Freedmen was born. Some years later, that school moved to Lombardy Avenue and became Virginia Union University. And this story is extremely important to me, and I won't let anybody take that from me. This story is extremely important to me because I have lived it, I know it, and I am very secure in declaring that if it had not been for what happened on Devil's Island, I would not have had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to Virginia Union over 40 years ago, and as a poor boy from Philadelphia, finally wind up leading the great city of Richmond. This is a story that should not be buried. It should not be hidden under a bushel, but this is a story that must be told. We must celebrate the fact of where we have come from and celebrate the fact that even though there were disastrous things that happened in the past, the outcome is that many have been able to succeed. Lumpkin's jail has been uncovered through the diligent work of our Slave Trail Commission, and I want to express our appreciation to Delores McQuinn, delegate for the 70th District, for the great work that she has done. She has devoted time and energy to this cause, and we want to make sure that this cause that she has championed for these many years is not forgotten. They have made sure that archaeological work has been done, and you can see concepts of a dramatic interactive memorial has been developed, and we are committed to moving forward immediately with detailed designs and constructions that will commemorate Lumpkins Jail. This development will enliven these sites, bring tourists and visitors downtown to explore our history and heritage in ways that are not being explored today. Steve Gannon is here from Capital One. And Steve, we want to thank you for your participation and your willingness to lead the community to raise at least $30 million to pay for the development of the Slavery and Freedom Heritage Site. And I'm looking forward to this part of the project because this is an opportunity for the community to come together to build this center, not just with dollars, though we will need plenty of those, but with new energy, with new imagination, with new tools and concepts, with a larger sense of goodwill, and with the patience and determination to show that Richmond can work together. And it is important that persons of all heritage and all races learn this history. Our children need to know this history. And it is an opportunity for us to give our best. And I've spent a lot of time with Delegate McQuinn and with President Ed Ayers exploring the best ways to commemorate Richmond's history. And we know that understanding history requires an ongoing dialogue. And I am committed to that ongoing dialogue and will be looking to receive input from those who are experts in that area, because the last thing we want to do is tell a history that is not accurate or correct. And I know that Delores McQuinn is especially excited today, and I'm very happy that she has joined me. But before she comes, I want to recognize the presence of other members of City Council. President Charles Samuels is here. Charles, would you stand and be recognized? Ellen Robertson, the Vice President of City Council, is here. Are there other City Council persons who are here today that I did not see? We are delighted that you are here today, and we look forward to the robust debate that will take place after this day is over. At this time, I want to bring to the stage the young lady who succeeded me. I have to tell her that every now and then in the General Assembly, the House of Delegates, and she is doing an absolutely wonderful job as a member of the legislature. But today, we bring her here because of her work with the slave trail and her continued cooperation as we move forward from this point. Help me welcome Delegate Delores McQuinn. Just get in the mic.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I want to first thank you, Mr. Mayor, but first take this opportunity also to acknowledge, I'm sure, of our many veterans who are in the audience, and to say thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. The work of the slave trail has certainly been one that's been a labor of love. And it has been inclusive of installing slave trail markers, erecting and unveiling the reconciliation statue, one of 3 in the world, the survey of Lumpkins jail site, followed by a full excavation, the acquisition of the Negro burial ground, the installing of brass markers, and many, many other efforts. I have led the Slave Trail Commission over the past decade. We have had the sole mission of preserving, acknowledging, and commemorating the history of enslaved Africans. 20 years ago, only a handful of scholars studied the experience of enslaved people in Virginia. Few people understood the extent to which Virginia's vast wealth depended on the forced labor of enslaved men, women, and children. And almost no one knew the central role that Richmond played in the slave trade. We set out to change that. We developed a walking trail that physically outlines the path that countless people traveled through forced servitude. The trail began at Manchester's dock. That's where the port where thousands of people were imported into slavery in this country, and where many thousands more were sold downriver, permanently ripped apart from their families. The trail passes through Richmond's slave market and past the Lumpkin slave jail that we excavated, and it goes on to the Negro burial ground to First African Baptist Church. Today, thanks to the Slave Trail Commission, we began telling America's story in a more open and honest way. But we need to do more. Over the years, I've heard of a lot of proposals for developing this area. I'm convinced that this is the right one. This is the right plan for Richmond. This is the right plan for Richmond because it seriously talks about the possibility of telling America's story the right way. I like something that the mayor said. He said we have to find a way to honor our past, plan for our future, and live in the present. That's how we should think about this. I believe that this is the one chance we have to honor our history in a big way. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it because this is a moment to transform Richmond by creating unique spaces for people to live, work, play, and learn. I am one and must be honest that I'm not that excited about baseball. Don't throw eggs at me. But if a new baseball stadium can help make it possible to invest in commemorating Richmond's history, then we should certainly explore it. And more importantly, if it brings new job to our community and a grocery store in this neighborhood, then we need to get moving. Finally, as a woman of faith, I've prayed over and over and over again that God would send support and help and assistance to the Slave Trail Commission to advance our agenda and vision. There are those that will love this plan, and there are those who are adamantly opposed to it. What I love is the fact that after over toiling for the past decade to tell the story, there's a real opportunity to see an amazing vision come to fruition. And if we can do that for generations that will come, then what a gift, what a rich legacy that they will receive from us. Thank you. This is not just our story. This is American story. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Delores McQuinn, let's give her a round of applause. Our next speaker is Dr. Ed Ayers, and he has played an important role in bringing Richmond together. And he is advocating telling not part of the story, but telling the whole story. And during these last years, I have become more accepting of not only my story, but I want to hear other people's stories, because all of our stories together put history in its proper perspective. Dr. Ed Ayers, the President of Virginia Union University. University of Richmond.
Thanks, everybody. Now, as Mayor Jones says, We have a complicated history in this city, and we do so in this. Let's pause for a moment to think about history. Let's listen to each other. Okay? On that point, Churchill, Virginia's first elected governor, declared, "Give me liberty or give me death." And that speech helped lead to a new nation, but one with the great flaw of slavery in its very constitution. And not long afterwards, Richmond became capital of Virginia and built a gleaming temple of freedom on another one of our hills. And soon after that, in 1800, an enslaved man named Gabriel tried to redeem the promissory note of the Declaration of Independence to claim his own liberty and the liberty of others held in slavery in the new United States by leading the enslaved people of Richmond in their own rebellion. Without an August storm that washed away bridges and hopes, Gabriel's rebellion might have succeeded and changed this country's history forever. The storm did come, though, and Virginia executed the rebels who sought the liberty of their people. They were buried near us, over there, alongside Africans and Americans born into perpetual bondage, and they would be joined by so many more that the graveyard would be filled. Over the 3 generations of slavery that followed that rebellion, the land all around where we stand now saw untold suffering as the slave trade, Americans buying and selling other Americans, men, women, and children, ground on every day for more than half a century, growing ever larger and stronger. Richmond stood at the very eye of that American slave trade, the place where families were torn apart before each other's eyes, where people were dressed and undressed for market. Lumpkin's jail became a fitting symbol of the American slave trade, but this entire district was infected with the business of buying and selling people. Insurance companies and banks and hotels and newspapers and political parties and railroads built a trade of millions of dollars every year, a trade that grew ever more profitable as the crisis of the Union descended on our city, our state, and our nation. We must recognize that history as fully as we can going forward across this district where the slave trade flourished. We will also need to remember, however, that this place became a place of survival and hope. It was a place where Union black soldiers marched as they entered this smoking city. A place where Abraham Lincoln walked when slavery finally fell. A place where black preachers and teachers built schools where people had been bought and sold. A place where bars were yanked from the windows and a university born. We all just heard the mayor express his personal commitment to telling Richmond stories that have been hidden. I'm here today to help him make sure that he fulfills that pledge. This is a pledge to all of us that all of these stories will be told, including our friends who are here to protest. The conversation is not over. What we want to do is to explore what these stories mean for today and for tomorrow, but it's going to take many conversations and much collaboration to do that right. After so many years of so much work by so many people, we finally have the opportunity and the obligation to create a place where people from around the nation and around the world can see a city that recognizes the survival and the courage and the accomplishment of people who rose from great injustice. The work will be hard and there is much labor before us, but today begins a start on that important journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. That was very great. Thank you so much. And now, finally, the face of the Richmond Squirrels. And he promised that he would behave himself today. Todd Parnell. Let's welcome Todd.
Thank you. Hey, I wore a suit jacket today. Y'all impressed or what? September 23rd, 2009, the Richmond Flying Squirrels, the mayor was there with us when we announced the franchise starting. Today we stand here in the bottom in historic building times. By my math, I'm a product of the North Carolina Public School System, but my math, I woke up over 1,700 days in Richmond waiting for this day. So Mayor, on behalf of everyone, thank you. We love Richmond. And we know, as the Flying Squirrels organization, that Richmond will continue to love us here in the bottom, and we're excited about that. And Mayor, thank you. You've been a diligent partner for our time here, and by your comments today, you will be, and the people of Richmond will be for years to come. So thank you for that very much. The mayor even flew in a helicopter on opening day last year to bring the first pitch in. Now that's commitment. And the mayor also unfailingly sees the value of the squirrels and our 12-month impact. Because we're not a seasonal franchise, we try to impact the community 12 months a year. And to City Council, I thank you for your foresight in seeing that this works for Squirrels fans, many of whom are here today, for the historical memorialization of this area, the rejuvenation and renovation of the bottom, and it will also work for the boulevard. And I commend the mayor for making sure that both of those locations are taken care of. So thank you, City Council, for working on this to see that it works from all angles. To our fans, thank you for leading the league in attendance all 4 years that the Squirrels have been here. But, as sort of your leader, I'm telling you today that the time for discussion on location is over. The mayor's made his decision. Squirrels Nation needs to bond together, and we need to start it, yes, and work backwards and figure out how to make this thing work for everybody. So instead of debating with each other on location, talk to each other on how we're going to make this work, all of us together making this Richmond, Virginia, a place we all love, better than it's ever been before. When the Flying Squirrels were named, I like to play this game here. When the Flying Squirrels announced their name, y'all can raise your hands. How many of you thought we were absolutely the most ridiculous thing in the history of the world? Whoa, 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 whoa. How many of you now? So what I'm saying to you is before, we asked you to trust us and to hang in there with us to make it happen. And again, we're asking you to do that. Let us show you again how it goes. The ownership group. Brian Callahan from our ownership group is here. He's our local representative. Brian, wave your hand. Is here today. The ownership group has been absolutely unbelievable in their support of the management team. The San Francisco Giants, our Major League affiliate, are very excited, Mayor, and they send their well wishes, as does Major League Baseball, Minor League Baseball, and the Eastern League. Our 27 full-time employees are here. Raise your hand, full-time employees. These people are my family, and I'm thankful for them. Seasonal interns and over 300 part-time employees during the season. We appreciate each one of those. Our partners at VCU, we're working on them with a potential deal for here as well. Ed McLaughlin, my great friend, and Shockoe Smart, Havoc, baby. Our sponsors, season ticket holders and suite holders also, we thank you, every one of you. We're very excited about this project. Let's get it on. Have fun. Go nuts. Thank you, Richmond.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I again present you the Revitalize RVA Plan. And I want to take a moment to thank all of those who have worked so hard to pull this together. I want to thank the members of my staff who have worked so hard on this. And if they're here, just raise your hands. I want David Hicks and Byron Marshall. They worked really hard, plus all of the backup staff. I want to thank our financial advisors, Davenport and Company. And let's give a big shout out to Venture Richmond and all of the developers that are involved. Now, this is just the beginning of the conversation. We're going to have many community meetings all over town. I'm imagining that city council members will have meetings of their own. And so this is the beginning of a robust conversation. But we hope today, as Parney said, allows us to know that we have made the decision and we go forward from this place. All of us are loving RVA, is that right? Let's get it done. Thank you so much for being here today.